Well, my publisher had learned that DC Comics, which was then called National Comics, had a book called The Justice League, and it was selling very well. And it was made up of a number of superheroes. So he said to me, Stan, why don't you come up with a book with a team of superheroes? And I really didn't want to do the same old thing with guys who just wear costumes and masks and have secret identities, and the girl is always a token girl who has to be rescued all the time. In fact, at that time, I really wanted to quit, because I had been doing these comics for about 20 years, and I had the same instructions from my publisher all the time. Don't use words of more than 2 syllables. Don't play up too much dialogue. The readers get bored reading dialogue. And so I felt I was just writing one-dimensional stories. And my wife said to me, you know, Stan, if you want to quit anyway, why don't you do the next book you do the way you want to do it, just for fun? The worst that happens is you'll be fired, and you want to quit, so what's the big deal? And luckily, that was when he asked me to do this team of superheroes. So I thought, how can I make them a little different than what had gone before? 1, no secret identity. 2, the girl is going to be as much a valuable member of the team as the other 3 guys. 3, instead of the heroine not knowing that the hero is really a hero, you know, the Clark Kent, Lois Lane syndrome, I'll let them be engaged. They know each other and they know what they do, and that's it. And instead of the typical teenage sidekick, I'll get a younger member, but I'll let him be the brother of the girl. So after the girl and the guy get married, he'll be the brother-in-law. So it'll be a little family. And I felt at least that'll make it realistic. Then to continue, I felt Reed Richards will be the hero. Reed Richards, or Mr. Fantastic, as he modestly called himself. I don't want him to be the typical square-jawed hero who says, let's go get him. But I thought I'd make him a little bit more like me, something of a bore. He talks too much. He uses whatever big words he can think of. And I'll have fun with that, because the other members will always say, will you shut up? Can't you explain anything in a simple way? And I thought I'd have them talk to each other like real people do. Then I needed a 4th member who I wanted to be totally different, a guy who's really strong. But I thought, what if he's half monster? What if he could supply a lot of the humor and also a lot of the pathos? And I don't know, I think really, I don't know how I came up with the idea, but I'm so glad I did, because I love the thing. I think he's one of the best characters I ever came up with. As you can probably tell, the main objective was to try to make them as close to real human beings who might have possessed superpowers as I could. My all-time favorite Fantastic Four villain, in fact, maybe my all-time favorite villain, is Dr. Doom. One of the things I loved about him, I made him the king of his own country, Latveria. And I was so proud of making up the name Latveria, because it sounds like a real country. The thing I liked about Dr. Doom, by being a king, he could commit a crime in this country, but he had diplomatic immunity, so you couldn't arrest him. And also, if you think about it very deeply and clearly, what was it Dr. Doom wanted? He wanted to rule the world, right? Well, you could be a litterbug. You could throw a wad of gum on the sidewalk, and a policeman might come over and give you a citation. Or you could be a jaywalker, and you'd get a ticket. But you could walk up to any cop, and you could say, officer, I'd like to rule the world. It's not a crime. There's nothing he could do. So Dr. Doom was a very unique criminal. And I like the fact that I tried to give him his own sense of nobility and honor. In fact, I forget which story it was. There was one story where the FF were fighting him as usual, and he said to them, or to Reed, look, if you do thus and such, I'll set Sue free, or I'll let you go, or I don't remember the details. But the other three said, hey, you're not gonna take him at his word, are you? That was the thing. And Reed said, no, despite all his other faults, he's a man of honor, he'll keep his word. And again, I don't remember the exact words, but I kind of like doing a villain like that. He might be the most evil guy in the world, but he's not gonna lie to you. And again, a lot of credit goes to Jack Kirby. All I did was describe what I wanted and how I wanted him to act and be. But when Jack drew him, you couldn't get a better looking villain than Dr. Doom, with that little cowl over him and the armor. And Jack always used to say, Stan, the reason he concealed his face is because he basically looked like you. Jack and I sometimes had a relationship like the Thing and the Human Torch. I had fun writing all of them. I just loved every one. You know, there are some that come to mind. There was one called, I think, This Man, This Monster, where somebody managed to impersonate the Thing or take over his identity. He was a villain. But in the end, he turned good and he saved the Thing's life, or the Thing saved his life. I don't remember exactly, but the fella died at the end, but he died heroically. And it was the kind of story that kind of left a lump in your throat, you know. I always liked that, and the fans loved it. I got a lot of mail from that. Another one that I liked was The Wedding of Sue and Reed, because Jack and I put ourselves in the story at the end, and we had fun with it. At the very end of the story, Jack drew himself and me as characters trying to get into the wedding, and we weren't admitted because we didn't have an invitation. And I thought that was kind of funny.
The story of Fantastic Four mirrors the origin of the Fantastic Four, and it also mirrors, obviously, the movie, which is coming out. So it was really an exciting time for us because we were able to both recreate some of the beginnings of the Fantastic Four, their origins that really came from the comic books originally, it follows it fairly closely, but also get into what they're doing with the movie. The Fantastic Four is made up of, obviously, 4 characters. You have Reed Richards, who is the sort of the parental, he's the dad of the family in a lot of ways. He's, you know, sort of quiet, scientific, very reserved. He has a relationship with Sue Storm, who is the sister of Johnny Storm. So there's a brother and sister. They have their sibling rivalry going on. Johnny, obviously, is the flame guy. He's a hothead. He loves fast cars and women, and so he's obviously very interesting to a lot of people. And then you have Ben Grimm, who is the sort of the solid, stoic type, and really like the good guy, the really tragic story when he turns into his rock self. And he also has a crush on Sue, and he's longtime friends with Reed.
We started with the story. We used the movie as inspiration to springboard off of, and all the comic books as well. We were really able to do that because of the way we pull many heroes into all the levels.
Probably the most famous from the very beginning is Mole Man, and he has a mole creature that he brings up out of the ground in New York City. That's actually the cover for the very first issue of Fantastic Four.
We have a interesting cameo then by Puppet Master, who then becomes a key character in one of the missions throughout the game. He's Alicia Master's father, or stepfather, and that provides a lot of the players with some of the rich content with the history of Puppet Master with Fantastic Four.
We brought in Diablo, Mole Man, Annihilus, Doom, Blastar. We brought in a ton of F4 villains, including their subservient minions.
A lot of the classic villains, we brought them back and redesigned them, which was a lot of fun to go and look at the old 70s and 60s outfits that are just spandex and crazy things coming off their head, and look and see what we can do to make it more modern.
the origins of the Fantastic Four, they started as normal people, but they went out into space and got bombarded with cosmic energy, and they started transforming in their own unique way. The way that the game starts actually is you start as you're discovering the power.
All of the players' powers combined. Sue can freeze guys and Johnny can fireball them, or there's certain monsters where Sue will have to freeze their hands down, and Johnny have to light them on fire to expose vulnerabilities. Also, the way the teammates interact is they also buff one another, so Sue can put a force shield to protect someone, or Johnny can put a ring of fire around them. Ben can call a shockwave to knock guys back around someone. Reed can heal other players. They also, all their combos interact with each other and combine into points and modifiers that help you advance throughout the game.
Adapting a comic book to a movie or a video game is really no different than adapting a novel to a movie or a video game if you were to do that. Actually, it's easier because in the comic book, you've already established the look of whatever the property is. And all you have to do, in the comic book, the characters don't move. You know, Steven Spielberg said to me a long time ago, I'm quite a name dropper, but he said to me, you know, Stan, you and I do pretty much the same thing, except my pictures move. I always remember that. In a comic book, the pictures just lie there. So if you're doing a video game, you take those pictures and you use that as the basis. That's the start. That's the storyboard for your show. But then you've got to animate them. And that's fun. And that's, I think, where the excitement comes in. The same as a movie. When the movie adapted the Fantastic Four comic book, they looked at the pictures, they got the look of what the characters were like, what the settings were like, but then they created their own settings, but based on what they had seen, so that they had the same feeling, but still everything was original and was new. Of course, I don't know if you've thought of this, but it's quite an experience to, by playing a video game, to be able to become one of the characters that you actually created years ago. I mean, if I play the Fantastic Four game, I can be the Thing. I can be the Human Torch or Reed. Hey, I could even be Sue. So, I mean, that's something that nobody could have done years ago. Look at that, it's scaring everybody away. Except that one stupid little guy who chased me.
You got him?
Where are those,
Okay,
are you
there's
making
some more.
those explosions?
Oh yeah, that's when the guys blew up with. So let's run this way. Let's run this way.
Man, I'm good at this. I don't want to depart. Well, where are the bad
Yeah,
guys?
this way. Let's go. Okay, go right.
Find me a bad guy.
Right up here. Let's follow the blue guys. Read here. Let's go. Here they are.
Oh, there we go. Okay, watch out, bad guy. We're gonna get you.
Hit that O button.
Go to you and hit which button?
The O one again.
Okay, I'm gonna go to you. There, there's the O button. Hey, he's already lifted up. That's a funny thing, Excelsior. I used to write this column in all of the Marvel comics called Stan's Soapbox. And I also wrote a page called the Bullpen Bulletins page where I'd give news items about what we're doing and I just rapping with the readers. And I would end all the columns, I signed Stan, and you don't want to just say Stan, and you don't want to say yours truly or sincerely yours, it sounds so stiff. So I'd end by saying hang loose, or face front, or enough said. Didn't matter what I signed those columns with. I noticed that the competition started using those expressions in their books. And I said to myself, I've got to think of something that they won't copy because one, they wouldn't know how to spell it, and two, they'd never know what it means. So I came up with the word Excelsior, which means upward and onward to greater glory. I would like to think if you spend enough time creating characters and you make them as realistic as possible, then it isn't too easy to improve on them. And the only reason you want to change a character is to improve on it. You know, and you could think of so many classic characters like Sherlock Holmes. No matter how they try to do Sherlock Holmes differently, the old Sherlock Holmes is the best one. And the same with Tarzan. There's no way you can improve on Tarzan living in that jungle with the apes and with Jane and so forth. So I would like to think that the Fantastic Four were just well structured. And of course, the way they were drawn by Jack Kirby, the artist I collaborated with, and I like to refer to him as the co-creator of the Fantastic Four, because without him, and without that magnificent artwork of his, I don't think it wouldn't have been the same thing. He brought those characters to life visually. And he was very consistent. In his drawings, he gave them the personality they had. And whether it was the second issue or the 100th issue, he never varied them. They were always the same characters. So I think that Jack helped me to build such a solid foundation for these characters that it was just tough to change them as the issues went on. I think that we had the characters from the beginning. The only one that I think went through a little bit of a change was the Thing. As the issues went on, and I don't remember which one, maybe by the 5th issue or the 6th or the 4th something, we had him solid. But the first 2 or 3 issues, Jack was feeling his way with the Thing also. And it didn't take him long, though. But Reed was always Reed, and Sue was Sue, and Johnny. They didn't vary as the series went on, not when Jack was doing them. You know, it's very strange. When you do a movie adaptation or a video game adaptation of something that was created 40 years ago, you can't do it exactly the same because it'll seem old-fashioned. Now, for example, when the Fantastic Four went up into space, the idea was that Reed Richards wanted to be the first one to reach the moon. Well, we've already reached the moon. So they had to make it a little bit different. And he and the other 3 were in one little ship. But of course, in the movie and in the game, it's a ship with another booster rocket and all that, and they go from one to the other. So you try to tell the story as closely as possible to the way it had been done originally, but you've got to make so many little changes to make it contemporary and to make it relevant to the people who are watching today. I think that the movie and the video game have done a wonderful job of making the FF belong to today's era without losing the feeling of what it had 40 years ago. Probably the best example is Sue's hairdo. She had a hairdo of the 60s. When we created her, Jack drew her wearing her hair the way women did then. Today, in the movie and in the video game, she looks like a girl of today. Now, that doesn't mean it's not faithful to the Fantastic Four. It's still the Fantastic Four. She's still Sue, but years ago she was very stylish. Today she's very stylish, but styles have changed. So the artists and the designers did a wonderful job by changing her the way they did. And people often ask me, well, aren't you offended or upset when that happens? And absolutely not, because it just shows that the people doing today's versions care about the product and they want to make it belong to the era that it's in.
My favorite character sort of depends on my mood, to be honest. If I'm really angry and upset, I like to be Ben Grimm. If I had to pick one, I'd pick Sue. Not just because I like Jessica Alba either.
I like Sue the best, probably. She has the most unique abilities, and she has the most emergent gameplay. You can freeze guys and sneak up behind them and kill them with one-shot stealth kills. You can obviously sneak through environments. Her unlockable combos, use a lot of different force powers. She creates blades of energy. She does a lot of spin kicks. She's more karate style, faster.
My favorite F4 hero is probably Reed, because he can do some pretty amazing things, like stretching, of course, but he can stretch every part of his body, which everybody always makes a good joke about.
You pool lives and cosmics, and everything's a big pool, so it really encourages team play between you and your friend. If you don't know your friend so well, you probably have a harder time with this game. My favorite level is probably the Underground. It's the first time in the game where we really get to dive into offshoot from the movie. We're able to explore a little bit outside of the movie universe, more into the Marvel universe, and show Mole Man, his minions, and more fantastical powers.
Well, some of the interesting interactions that we had between the film and the game actually were early on when we were doing the flame for Johnny. We actually took some of our early versions up to the movie set when we were doing it, and we had conversations, our artists had conversations with their artists as far as how they were developing the technology, the particle effects for Johnny. And they looked at what we were doing, and we looked at what they were doing. We actually were able to learn from each other and come up with something that was even more interesting for both of us. The game takes the movie at its core as a sort of a framework. And then because in the movie it's an origin story, there's a lot of character development, we actually end up taking a lot more from the fiction of the comic books, the original story, and adding into that. We had tremendous access to the film and to the set and to all the aspects of the film that were really going to help us. We were able to go send our artists up there, and we had people that were taking pictures of little props. And one of the things I actually really love about the game is that you'll see little details. If you pay attention when you see the movie, like the logos, little aspects of the space station that you'll say, hey, I've seen that, and then you'll see it in the game. Because we had such good access to the sets, we were able to see the blueprints, all kinds of things like that. And we were able to even have communication with the effects people so we can see how they're doing some of their special effects and kind of integrate that into our process as well.
They flew me up to the set. I was able to take pictures. I got to meet many of the principal cast, talk with the director. Marvel was really helpful with giving us materials and sketches and pre-movies and before they were released to anyone, and we were able to really study that and bring it into the game. What's really unique about our game is we took the story and just fleshed it out even more, and we went into the areas of the story in the movie you won't quite be able to see.
Most of the people on the team were already fans of comic books when they got into it, so there was a little bit of research that needed to be done, but most of it we really knew, especially the current generation of the Fantastic Four comic books. A lot of the research we had to do was to go back to the very original ones, and that actually was really fun.
Yeah, we have a huge library of comic books here, all the originals, the big tomes. We went way back into the old days with the sort of the 60s mentality and the different ways they treated people, and now into the more modern comics, which are a little more sexy and a little more colorful, a little more action-oriented. And we were able to we have some people on our team that just have grown up loving the Fantastic Four.
No, they're all my favorites. I love Reed because he was so boring and so serious, and yet he was there in a pinch. He was a true hero. Obviously, I love the Thing. I mean, he's got to be my favorite, I guess. But I love Johnny. I love the Human Torch, and I love the fact that he was always pulling tricks on the Thing, and he was always really not wanting to be a big hero. If only he could have been out with his girlfriends, he'd have had a better time. And Sue was great because she was as brave, as courageous, had as much power. That force field of hers saved them so often, and the fact that she could turn invisible, and I love that. I loved them all, but I guess the Thing was my favorite. I'm the smart one now.
Yeah, I'm the dumb one.
Hey, don't call my Thing dumb. Here we go. Jump. I can jump. Watch me have him jump over there. Jump! This is fun. Jump.
There we go. A giant
Jump.
spider to fight.
Oh, okay, now let's get that. Do you want to handle him first and I'll be back up for you?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. I'll cover you from here.
All right. I'm gonna hit somebody. Yeah, I'm hitting him hard. Who am I hitting hard?
You're hitting that tree.
Well, boy, that tree isn't gonna mess with us anymore. All right, back we go. Oh, now you had the thing jump.
Yeah. Jump
Oh,
into it.
wait a minute, why does he jump further than Reed? You picked the better character.
He's got bigger leg muscles.
That's the Hulk. Oh, well, he does too. You know, I wouldn't know which to choose. There are so many comic book superpowers. The first thing, of course, that comes to mind is strength, and then maybe speed, and maybe mental telepathy or telekinesis. I mean, how do you know which is the best? Maybe the one I'd pick would be immortality. Probably to a young kid, the first thing he'd think of would be, I want to be strong. Maybe as you get older, you say, I'd like to be as smart as Reed Richards. And maybe at some point you say, oh, I can only fly through the air like the Human Torch. So it depends on what stage of life you're in.